లీవ్ అవుతున్నాను.
ఓకే
వేరే ఒక
ఓకే ఓకే
జస్ట్ రికార్డ్ చేయండి, మీ దగ్గర పెట్టుకొని తర్వాత నేను తీసుకుంటాను.
ఓకే 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 then are you able to see my screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, today's session again I can give some introduction about this technology. Okay, theoretical I can explain, and at the same time I can show something in the practical manner also. Okay. Okay, basically informatica power center is an ETL tool, right? It is an ETL tool. ETL means extraction, transformation and loading. That means we need to extraction in the sense we need to read the data from the one or more source systems. After that we need to format the data as per business requirement using various transformations. Okay, 1 minute please. Okay, you can see here first of all we need to collect the data from the one or more source systems. Hello?
Excuse me.
Yes, tell me.
Excuse me, sir. Actually, can we record the session?
Yeah, I am recording the session. Okay, I can share this session through Google Drive. Okay,
Yeah, sure.
so
Thanks.
to our consultant I can share this session. Entire video file I
Okay.
can share to him. He will share to you. Okay, through Google Drive again.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
Okay, see here in the informatica power center we can build an ETL logic. Okay, that means ETL logic means extraction, transformation and loading. That means extraction in the sense read the data from the one or more source systems, and as per business requirement we need to transform the data by using various transformations and load the data to the target system. Extraction, transformation and loading, that whole process can be done within a single logic. Okay, that's why informatica power center is an ETL tool. Okay, what is transformation? Extraction means reading. Transformation in the sense here we need to format the data as per business requirement. That is transformation. The transformation means it is a predefined procedure. The transformation is a predefined procedure. Okay, within that predefined procedure, as per business requirement, we can build the logic. Enough. Okay, we don't want to redesign that procedure. Just we can use that procedure and build the logic. Enough as per business requirement. And loading. Okay, we need to load the data to the target system. So what is our target system here? Data warehouse is our target system. Here within this technology, we need to extract the data from the source systems. Okay, what are the source systems here? Source systems means these are the systems are made in business information. In which place our business information is available, that is called as source system. The source systems are always maintains operational data. Here we can get the operational data from the source systems. Operational data is also called as, what is operational data? Transactional data. So from the source systems we can get the transactional data which is having full of inconsistency. So that is not available in the analysis format. That is not possible to analyze the business, or at the same time it's not possible to read the data, not available in the readable format, not available in the understandable format. Inconsistency means we are unable to understand the data, and we are unable to readable in the sense we are unable to analyze the data. So that's why what we need to do from that respect to source systems, we need to read that operational data available in the source systems. Okay, after that we need to format the data by using various source systems. In the transformations level, what we need to do, we need to make the consistency from inconsistency available within that respect to source systems by using various transformations. Okay, here after that we need to load the data to the target system. target system. Okay, within this target system, what we need to do? We need to store analytical data. From the source systems, we can collect operational data. After some necessary manipulations, we need to store analytical data to the target system that is suitable for analysis. Okay, analytical data loaded to the respective target system. Okay, after some necessary manipulation using various transformations. Okay. Okay, now here in between source systems and target systems, what we need to do if you want to manipulate the data by using various transformations, that is called a staging layer. In between source systems as well as target systems, we can process the data by using staging layer here. That means in the Informatica Power Center, we need to build an ETL logic in order to design staging layer. In Informatica terminology, not only Informatica, in data version terminology, application layer is called as staging layer. The staging layer level, we can use necessary transformations. In each place, transformations takes place to manipulate the data from extraction onwards up to loading. That is called a staging layer. The staging layer, we have collection of the transformations. Here we have collection of the transformations to format the data. To format the data as per business requirement. Okay. To format the data means,
Excuse
hello? Yes.
Yeah, I have a question actually.
Okay.
In most of the organizations, almost we'll have a structured data, not like unstructured. So if we have structured data, why do we need this transformations? Just transformations main thing is
Structured in the
to...
sense, structurally, if you have the data in input source system, that is okay. We don't need to define that one as a structured data or otherwise unstructured data, inconsistent data and consistent data. Inconsistency means
Okay.
that is not suitable for analysis. For more readability as well as analysis point of view, what we need to do, we need to format the data. Okay, that means we don't want to convert the unstructured data to the structured data. Okay, we can get the data available in the structural format, means operational data, transactional data. Okay, crores of the rows are there in the input source. Is it possible to read that crores of the rows for analysis? Row by row, if you want to analyze the data available in input source system, that is not suitable for analysis. The crores of the rows are not suitable for analysis. As per business requirement, that means for analysis point of view, what we need to do, we need to format the data, means we need to convert that transactional data into analysis format. That means summarized format. Okay. Here operational data is fully detailed in nature, very detailed in nature. Transactional data is very detailed. From the detailed data, we need to get summarized data. Okay, that means here we need to aggregate the data. Detailed data is converted into summarization by using necessary aggregate functions like sum, average, count, min, max. Using those aggregate functions, we need to manipulate the data to convert into summarized format. Input is very detailed and output is summarized format. Okay. For example, in the input source, we have 4 regions data. Okay, region 1, region 2, region 3 and region 4. 4 regions data available in the input source. Okay, at an average, for each region, 1 lakh rows are there. That means 4 lakh rows are available in the input source. Okay. Now here, what we need to do in the Informatica, we need to aggregate the data to calculate region-wise revenue. Then input is 4 lakhs, output is 4 rows. Okay, we need to manipulate the data to convert very detailed data into fully summarized format. Okay, region-wise, we can get the aggregated data, which is fully summarized in nature, and we need to keep that fully summarized data in the respective target system. That's why that data is also called analytical data. Input is operational data and output is analytical data. Input is very detailed and output is summarized. Okay. Here, why do you need to format the data? Means here we can make consistency. Here we need to process the data via various transformations to make consistency from inconsistency available in the source systems.
Okay.
Inconsistency means rough copy. Actually, business people provide one rough copy to us. From that rough copy, we can prepare fair copy and we can keep that fair copy in the target system for further analysis. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Here by using various transformations, here we can make the consistency from inconsistency available in the source systems. Okay, inconsistency means anything, not only detailed data. Inconsistency means anything. For example, you are a business person, you are doing your business in particular marketplace. Okay, as per your convenience, for example, you have one bank, you are a chairman of particular bank. Okay, you have so many number of branches in various cities and various towns are available in India. Initially you started your business in metropolitan cities as well as greater cities. Initially your bank branches are available within these places. Okay, as per your convenience, business convenience, your ATM transaction details are maintained in one database, online transaction details are maintained in one database. For example, one account holder is there, that account holder have one debit card or ATM card is there. Okay, what they can do, if they want to draw the amount, then they can visit nearer by that respective account holder. If any ATM center is there, okay, they can visit that respective ATM center and insert their ATM card in the respective ATM machine and draw some amount. That is one transaction. Okay, as per our business convenience, that ATM transaction details are stored in one database. Okay, sometimes if that respective account holder using net banking also, they can try to transfer amount from their account to the some other account through online. That online transactions are maintained in one database. Okay, and sometimes they can deposit the amount directly from their home branch. Okay, the transaction details are maintained in one database. Sometimes they can purchase some items through shopping. Okay, through shopping they are trying to purchase some products using their debit card or credit card. The transaction details are maintained in one database. Okay, ATM transactions are maintained in one database, online transactions are maintained in one database, and direct deposit details are maintained. The transactions are maintained in one database, and the shopping transactions are maintained in one database. That totally for particular account holder, almost all transactions, four types of the transactions are there. That four types of the transactions are maintained in four databases. Now, at the end of the month, if you want to prepare bank statement for that respective account holder, at the end of the month, you need to prepare a bank statement for that particular account holder. Then all transactions of that particular account holder details are maintained in four databases. Then what we need to do here, if you want to prepare a bank statement, first we need to collect the transactions that are available for that particular account holder in four databases. So we need to collect that information. After that, based upon account holder, we need to integrate that information. So we need to integrate the transactions. So after that, we need to store the transactions in the target system is called as data warehouse. Then what we need to do here, we need to collect the data of that particular account holder from the multiple databases. Your source is multiple databases. In your source system level, multiple databases are available. Four databases are there. From that four databases, collect the data, integrate the data, process the data, and finally load the data to the single target system. That means in the Informatica Power Center, what we need to do, we need to integrate the data. That's why Informatica Power Center is also called as data integration tool. Okay. Here we can integrate this similar data available in multiple source databases, that means multiple source systems. After that, through single logic, we need to process the data and store the data to the single target system. Okay. Here, this is the one of the business scenarios. Okay. As per business requirement, we need to collect the data from the multiple source systems also. Okay. After that, we need to process the data. That means we need to cleanse the data, and finally we need to store the data to the single target system. Here in between source and the target, we can build a staging layer to collect the data from the various source systems by using various transformations. Again, what we need to do, we need to format the data to make consistency from inconsistency available in the source systems. So once whole process was completed in the staging layer, we need to store the data to the target system. So once data loaded to the target system from the staging layer, that whole process data was removed again. So from extraction onwards up to loading, what is the process can be done in the staging layer by using various transformations. That whole data was removed. That way staging layer is temporary in nature. The staging layer, we are using various transformations to process the data. Once data processed within that respective transformations, data loaded to the target system. Okay, once data loaded to the target system, then what is the data is virtually stored in the staging layer. That entire data was removed. That's why staging layer is temporary in nature. Because source and target permanent and staging layer is temporary, not permanent one. For every run, new data stored in the staging layer for further processing through various transformations. Once data loaded to the respective target system, then that processed data was removed from the staging layer. Why staging layer is temporary in nature means for every run we need to process the new data within that respective staging layer. That's why data is temporarily stored in the staging layer within that particular run. Okay, now here where we can build this ETL logics in the Informatica Power Center means by using Power Center client. Actually in the Power Center we have client server architecture. In the Informatica Power Center we have client server architecture. Power Center client and Power Center server is there. As an ETL developer, always we are working with the Power Center client only. Power Center client is a front end tool. So Power Center client. Within this Power Center client, we have 4 tools. The Power Center client, we have 4 tools. Those tools are visible to the ETL developers. Okay, as an ETL developer, once you logged into your development system, the development system Power Center client was installed. Server never installed in the development environment. Server is installed in the server system that is integrated to the multiple client systems. Each client system is accessed by the ETL developer. Okay, within that client system, we have various front-end tools are called as Power Center Designer, Repository Manager, Workflow Manager, and next fourth one is the Workflow Monitor. Okay, these are the 4 tools are available in the Power Center client. Okay, initially, as an ETL developer, first of all, we need to familiar with the user interfacing of Power Center client. The Power Center client, we have 4 front-end tools. First one is Power Center Designer, next one is Repository Manager, third one is Workflow Manager, and fourth one is Workflow Monitor. These are the 4 tools are available. Okay, in the Power Center client environment, due to some security reasons, here Repository Manager tool is also not visible to us. Repository Manager tool is also disabled by the administrator. That means the Power Center client for the ETL developer, only Power Center Designer, Workflow Manager, and Workflow Monitor. Only these 3 tools are visible to us. For ETL developer, in the development system, only Power Center Designer, Workflow Manager, and Workflow Monitor. Only these 3 tools are visible. The Repository Manager tool is disabled by the administrator due to some security reasons. The tool is accessed by the Informatica administrator. The Informatica administrator has whole setup, client as well as server. The client, all 4 tools are visible for the Informatica administrator, whereas for the ETL developer, Power Center Designer, and Workflow Manager and Workflow Monitor, these 3 tools are visible. Repository tool is not visible. Actually, what we need to do in the Repository Manager tool means, in the Repository Manager, we can manage the repository which is created by the administrator. Initially, as an administrator, we can create a repository. Sometimes we can define that one as a repository service. We can create a repository service as an administrator in available RDBMS. Once repository service creation was completed by the administrator, we can manage it in the Power Center client by using Repository Manager tool. Okay. How to manage the repository means, we need to divide as per development convenience. We need to divide that repository again in the form of repository folders. As per development convenience, we need to divide the repository in the form of repository folders. For each repository folder, we can add group of users. We can add the group of users for each repository folder with various permissions are like read, write, and execute permissions. We can give the certain permissions to the each user added to that particular repository folder created in the repository. Okay. User in the sense ETL developer. ETL developer is an user here. For that user, we can give the certain permissions to work on particular repository folder. That repository folder is created in the repository manager tool only, and that repository created by the administrator. This is the Power Center client. Within this Power Center client, we have 4 tools, and backend tool is the Power Center server. The Power Center server is a backend tool, which is an application server, and which is responded during the runtime. Okay, Power Center server is a backend tool. It's responded during the runtime to run various ETL logics are designed by the ETL developers in the Power Center client environment. Okay, in the Power Center server, through Power Center server, we can get one web-based tool is called as Informatica Administrator Homepage. Okay, here if you're new to this environment, assume Power Center setup is not available in your system. Then what we need to do, we can install Power Center server first. Okay, once Power Center server installation was completed, then we can get one tool through Power Center server is called as Informatica Administrator Homepage. Okay, this is the tool we can get in the Power Center server. Okay, within this tool, it is a web-based tool. Through default web browser, we can access Informatica Administrator Homepage. Okay, in the default web browser, for example, Internet Explorer is the default web browser in your server system. In that default web browser, here we can access Informatica Administrator Homepage. Okay, within this tool, what we need to do, we need to create various services are called as repository service. Okay, next one is integration service. Here we can create these 2 services in the Informatica Administrator Homepage. Integration service. Repository service as well integration service. We can create these 2 services in the Informatica Administrator Homepage. Actually, repository service is a storage one. It is a storage space which is created by the Informatica Administrator in particular RDBMS, available RDBMS. Any available RDBMS, we can create a repository service. Okay, what is the use of this repository service? Means to store ETL metadata contents. So we can store ETL metadata contents in the repository service. Okay, why do we need to create the repository service in any available RDBMS? Means to store ETL metadata contents. Okay, what are the ETL metadata contents? Means sources, targets, transformations, maplets, and mappings. Mappings and etc. Okay, etc means here user defined functions, business components, that are also ETL metadata contents. All ETL metadata contents we can store in the repository service. Here for storage purpose, create a repository service in available RDBMS by the Informatica Administrator. Okay, for development point of view, repository service is needed. What about execution? Okay, how to execute the various ETL logics are stored in the repository. Okay, in the Informatica terminology, ETL logics are called as mappings. See here, these are the mappings we can design in the Power Center and we can store them in the repository service. If you want to run the ETL logics are like mappings are available in the repository service by the Power Center server, then here we can create an integration service. Integration service is it's an interfacing between repository service to the Power Center server. The Power Center server is an application server which is installed in particular machine. The repository service is a database. In any available RDBMS, we can create the repository service. Okay, and what are the logics are designed by the ETL developers? We can store them in the repository service, and in any point of time, if you want to run them, then we can start Power Center server. Once Power Center server is started, then we can communicate a repository service with the Power Center server by using integration service. Okay, without integration service, we can't run the logics are available in the repository. For execution point of view, here we can execute various ETL logics by the Power Center server through integration service only. For education point of view, we can create integration service in between a repository service to the respective Power Center server. Okay. Actually, integration service is a interfacing. It's an interfacing between Power Center server to the Power Center repository service. Okay. These two services are created with Informatica Administrator in the Informatica Administrator home page. And here, for a development point of view, how many number of users are needed to work on particular repository service? For example, here we created one sales repository. So 4 ETL developers are needed to work on particular sales business need. Then for that 4 ETL developers, we can create 4 users. Okay, create here within this tool. What we need to do? We need to create users and user groups also. Okay, can create users and user groups with necessary roles and privileges. Okay, necessary roles and privileges. Here we can create the users and user groups. Okay, and here right now we are working with the 9.5.1. In the 9.5.1, we can give the permissions also. To give permissions to the users. For the users are created by the administrator. For that users, we can give the permissions also. Direct permissions. If you given permissions to the respective users directly itself in the Informatica Administrator home page, then we don't want to give the permissions again in the repository manager. The older versions, we can give the permissions in the repository manager too. The older version up to 9.1.0, we can give the permissions itself in the repository manager. After we created necessary repository folders, we can add the group of users for the respective repository folder with necessary permissions or like read, write and execute permissions. Whereas in the 9.5.1, directly you can give the permissions itself in the Informatica Administrator home page. Okay, we can grant the permissions and we can revoke the permissions. Okay, for that individual users or group of users to work on particular repository service. Okay, if you given permissions to that respective user on particular repository service directly itself in the Informatica Administrator home page, then for that user, permissions are unable to work on any number of folders are created within that respective repository. The repository manager tool, if you created 4 folders, sales, insurance and telecom. 3 folders are created in the repository manager tool. If you added but that respective user to that respective 3 folders, automatically that user has permissions, read, write and execute permissions to work on that 3 folders directly. We don't want to give the permissions again. Why? Because that permissions are already given by the administrator for that entire repository. That's why in a separate manner we don't want to give the permissions for that user to work on various folders created in the repository manager. Here, see this is the repository service. Within this repository service, we can store ETL metadata contents are like sources, targets, transformations, maplets, and mappings. Okay, where we can design this ETL metadata contents means in the Power Center design. As an ETL developer, we can work on Power Center Designer to develop necessary ETL metadata contents like sources, targets, transformations, maplets, and mappings. But once ETL metadata construction was completed in the Power Center Designer, we can save them in the repository of that particular folder. For example, A is the one user is there. That user is allocated to the particular folder available within that respective repository. Then if the A is the user created some ETL logics with sources, targets as well as transformations, that all ETL metadata contents are stored within that respective folder only, sales folder only. Okay, once sales folder of that particular repository. Okay, once ETL metadata construction was completed, then what we need to do? We need to run them. The main ETL metadata content is mapping. Mapping is the main one. Okay, mapping means it's nothing but an ETL logic. Once mapping construction was completed in the Power Center Designer, we need to run it. If you want to run it, actually that is available in particular repository. If you want to run it, then we can start Power Center server. Once Power Center server was started, then again we need to start integration service. Once integration service was started, then repository service is communicated with Power Center server. Then in the Power Center repository service, we have one mapping. That mapping was executing by the Power Center server during the runtime. Okay, in that situation, how to run that mapping? How to run the mapping by the Power Center server through integration service means in the form of workflow. So here is the workflow manager. The Power Center Designer, we can design necessary ETL logics as mappings with various ETL metadata contents are like sources, targets, transformations, and maplets. Okay. Then if you want to run the mappings, then we can create a workflow in the workflow manager tool. The workflow manager tool, we can create a workflow with a set of tasks. Okay, what is the logic we designed as a mapping in the Power Center Designer tool and saved in the repository? Okay, we need to run it in the form of task. That means in the workflow manager tool, we can create a workflow with set of tasks. Each task is derived from one valid mapping available in the repository. Okay, as an ETL developer, we can design an ETL logic as a mapping in the Power Center Designer and save it in the repository. If you want to run it, then we can call that mapping to the workflow manager tool as a task. The name of the task is called session task. Okay, we can create a workflow with a set of session tasks. Each task is derived from one valid mapping available in the repository. Okay, what is the meaning of the session? Session means it's a time period between start time and end time. Okay, in the mapping point of view, what is the start time is extraction is the start time. End time means loading is the end time. From extraction onwards up to loading, we need to process the data. That's why that whole process is called a session task here. We can create a workflow with a set of session tasks. Once workflow construction was completed in the workflow manager, we need to start the workflow. Once workflow execution was started, then whole status was displayed in the workflow monitor tool. Finally, within this workflow monitor, we need to view the status, how that Power Center server responded to run the various session tasks are available in the workflow. What is the start time of the execution, end time of the execution? Status was visible to us in the workflow monitor tool. Status means whether that session execution was completed successful or not, succeeded or not. That information is also visible in the workflow monitor tool only. Okay. The Power Center Designer tool, we can build the necessary ETL logics as mappings and we can save them in the repository. Okay. After that, we can go to workflow manager and within this workflow manager, we can create a workflow. How to create a workflow means we can create a workflow with a set of tasks. Each task is derived from one valid mapping is available in the repository and we can define that task as a session task. Once workflow construction was completed in the workflow designer tool with a set of session tasks, we need to start the workflow and observe the status in the workflow monitor tool. Okay, how that server is responded to collect the data from the input source, how many number of source success rows are collected from the input source, how many number of rows are processed through various transformations, and how many number of rows are loaded to the target. That whole details are displayed in the workflow monitor tool only. Okay, here what is the main development tool is the Power Center Designer tool. Power Center Designer tool is a main development tool here. Okay, initially as an informatica administrator, create a repository service in any available RDBMS. That repository service we need to add in the repository manager and allocate the group of users to work on that respective repository. Then as an ETL developer, we can access the repository in the Power Center Designer and build necessary ETL metadata contents like sources. Those are imported from the source systems. Targets are imported from the target system. And the transformations we designed as per business requirement. And maplets we designed as per business requirement. What is the difference between transformations and maplets means? Here transformation is nothing but a one predefined mechanism. One predefined mechanism is designed as a transformation. As per our requirement, we can build the logic within that respective transformation. Okay, individually, you can build the transformations. Okay, maplet means the set of transformations. Maplet is nothing but a set of transformations. Okay, I can explain to you in the practical manner. Okay, during our regular sessions, in our coming sessions, practically we'll discuss, okay, where we can import the sources, from where we import the required sources, and from where our targets are available, how to import them to our power center. After that, how to build the transformations as per our business requirement, how to build the maplets, and finally how to build the mappings also. Here our main tool is the power center designer. In the power center designer, we have various development tools. The power center design is the main development tool to build a mapping set. Necessary details are called as mapping with sources, targets, transformations, as well as maplets. Okay, in the power center designer, what we need to do, we need to connect to the particular repository service that is allocated to us. After that, we need to access the various tools are available in the power center designer. So what are the tools are available in the power center designer? First one is source analyzer. Source analyzer. The source analyzer is the first tool. Okay, within this tool, what we need to do, we need to import sources available in source systems. Okay, we need to connect to the source system to import required sources by using source analyzer tool only. So from source available source systems, what we need to do here, we need to import required sources. Okay, required sources available in various source systems. That means either single source or multiple sources, that to RDBMS or non-RDBMS. Okay, we can access either RDBMS sources or non-RDBMS sources to import required sources from that respective source systems. Okay, in the source analyzer, we can not only import the required sources from that respective sources, but also we can analyze them. Okay, we need to understand them. Compulsory, we need to understand them means we need to categorize them as master tables as well as detail tables. That means master sources as well as detail sources. What are the sources we imported from that respective source system? We need to identify them as master sources as well as detail sources. For further implementation point of view, compulsory we need to recognize the sources are imported from the source systems as master as well as detail. Okay, what is the next one here? What is the next tool means target designer. In the power center designer, first tool is the source analyzer, which is used to connect to the respective source systems and import required sources. And next one is the target designer. The target designer, what we need to do in the target designer, we need to import required targets from target systems. From target system, we can import required targets here. Because sometimes we can create new targets and export them to target system. The source system just we can import. Why? Because sources are always available in read-only mode. For our informatica power center, source systems are available in read-only mode. Why? Because source systems are having business information that is came from the existing systems. We don't disturb the data. Okay, as per our requirement, we can choose the available sources and we can import required targets if available, or we can create a new target as per our new requirement. Okay, sources are always existing one. Okay, we never update anything to the respective source. Just we can read the data. Okay, just we can read the data from the respective source systems enough. Okay. For development point of view, just we can import the metadata. For execution point of view, our system read the data. Just metadata structures are sufficient. If we want to build an ETL logic, just we can import metadata structures of the source systems as well as target systems. Only metadata is sufficient for development. No data is needed. But for runtime, data needed. That means for power center client, using power center designer, if we want to design an ETL logic, just we can import the metadata structure of the source systems and metadata structures of the targets, and we can build the metadata structures of the various transformations in between source and target as an ETL logic. Enough. For execution point of view, our informatic power center server read the data from the respective source systems, process the data by using various transformations, and load the data to the target system. That whole process can be done power center server only. Okay, here in the power center designer, third tool is called as transformation developer. Transformation developer. Okay, within this transformation developer, what we need to do, we can build a transformation for reusability. Because see here in the repository service, we can store various ETL metadata contents are like sources. Sources that are imported from the source systems by using source analyzer tool. Okay, next targets. Targets that are imported from the target system if available, or create a new target table itself in the target designer and export the target table to the target system. Next here, these are the transformations. Okay, here we can build the transformations in the Power Center Designer tool for reusability. Once we design one transformation in the transformation developer, we can reuse it in multiple mappings. Okay, we can reuse the transformation in multiple mappings. Then we can build the transformation in the transformation developer. Here we can create reusable transformations in the transformation developer. Okay, if you created one transformation in the transformation developer that is available for reusability, that means the transformation is saved as an individual object in the repository service. Okay, here we can create reusable transformations individually, not in the combined manner. So there is no chance to link one transformation to the other transformation. Okay, individually, we can build the transformation in the transformation for reusability. Okay. The next one, what is the next one here? Next tool is the maplet designer. Within this maplet designer, we can design a maplet. Okay, we can create a maplet for reusability. Here also we can go for reusability here. The maplet designer tool also to build a maplet for reusability. Create a maplet for reusability using group of transformations. Okay, individual transformations we can design the transformation developer for reusability, whereas here we can build a maplet with a group of transformations for reusability. Okay, group of transformations. Here we can use group of transformation to build a transformation logic as a maplet in the maplet designer tool for reusability. Okay, finally, what we need to do here, if you imported required sources from the source system by using source analyzer tool, or if you created or imported required targets in the target designer tool, after that, initially if you have an idea, okay, a particular transformation logic is needed more than one times, then directly you can design a transformation in the transformation developer for reusability point of view. Or sometimes if you have an idea initially to build a whole transformation logic with a set of transformation for reusability, then we can go for maplet designer tool to create a maplet with group of transformations for reusability. And finally, what we need to do here in the Power Center designer, finally we can build the necessary ETL logic as a mapping by using mapping designer tool. The mapping designer tool is the final tool which is used to build a mapping as per business requirements, so with available sources, required targets, as well as necessary transformations. Here in the mapping designer, we can create a mapping using sources, targets, and either non-reusable transformations. If any transformation was designed itself in the mapping designer tool during the creation of the mapping, those are called as non-reusable transformations. Non-reusable transformations, or if transformations are designed in the transformation developer, those are called as reusable transformations. Okay, during the creation of the mapping in the mapping designer tool, sometimes we can use reusable transformations also. Reusable transformations or reusable maplets. Okay, we can use reusable maplets also during the creation of the mapping. Okay. The mapping design itself, we can create a mapping using sources, targets, and either reusable transformations or non-reusable transformations or reusable maplets. Okay. Yeah, main tool is the powercenter designer. We need to spend more time in the powercenter designer tool only. Once ETL logic construction was completed in the powercenter designer, then we can save it in the repository service. Okay, we can save it in the repository service, and in any point of time, if you want to run it, then we can go to workflow manager. Okay, once ETL logic construction was completed, okay, mapping construction was completed in the powercenter designer tool by using various tools are available in the powercenter designer. Then what we need to do, once mapping construction is completed, then we can validate that mapping and save the mapping in the repository. In any point of time, if you want to run it, then we can go to workflow manager. Okay, we can go to workflow manager. Okay, within this workflow manager, we can create a workflow with a set of tasks. Okay, each task is derived from one valid mapping available in the repository, and we can call that task as called as session task. We can create a session task from one valid ETL logic, that means one valid mapping available in the repository, and we can use that session task with that particular workflow, and we can run the workflow. Once we started the workflow, then what are the session tasks are available in the workflow? Those session tasks are executed one after another, either in the parallel manner or concurrent manner. Okay. In the workflow manager, again we have three tools, same as like powercenter designer. In the workflow manager also we have three user interfacing tools. Okay, first one is task developer. First one is the task developer. Okay, what is the use of this task developments? Which is used to create a task for reusability. Okay, in the powercenter designer we have transformation developer to build a transformation for reusability. Okay, same as like a transformation developer, the task developer also you can create a task for reusability. Create a task for reusability in the task developer. Okay, here what kind of the task we can create in the task developer means, okay, first one is session task. Okay, and next one is email task, and third one is comment task. Only these three tasks we can create in the task developer for reusability: session task, email task, and comment task. The remaining all tasks are non-reusable tasks. Only these three tasks are reusable tasks. The task developer we can build a task for reusability. Okay, individually can build the tasks in the task developer for reusability. Okay, next one is the workload designer. Same as like maplet designer, here in the workflow manager we have workload designer also. The workload designer, what we need to do, we can create a workload with a set of tasks for reusability. Yeah, same as like maplet designer. Create a workload with set of tasks for reusability. Okay. Individually can build the tasks in the task developer for reusability, whereas in the workload designer we can create a workload with a set of tasks for reusability. Here always you can follow reusability concept here, the development point of view in the powercenter designer as well as workflow manager. And next one, third one is the workflow designer. The final workflow we can design in the workflow designer tool only. Final workflow. Here in the workflow designer we can create a workflow with set of non-reusable tasks, non-reusable tasks, reusable tasks, those are created in the task developer, and reusable workloads. Here in the workflow designer, we can create a workflow with a set of non-reusable tasks or reusable tasks or reusable worklets also. These are the three tools are available in the workflow manager tool. The next one, workflow monitor. Within this workflow monitor, what we need to do, we need to observe the status. Which workflow is running right now? What kind of the tasks are available? How the tasks are executing by the Informatica powercenter server. And what is the status of each task? That whole details are displayed in the workflow monitor tool. It is used to display workflow run details. The workflow run details are displayed in the workflow monitor tool only. The workflow run details are like what is the which workflow is running right now, what is the start time of the execution, what is the end time of the execution for each task, and what is the status, like whether that task was succeeded or failed. And we can see the properties also. So that means how many number of rows are extracted from the input source, how many number of rows are processed, how many number of rows are targets. That whole count is displayed in the workflow monitor tool only. So this is the workflow monitor tool. Okay, here these are the three tools are available in the powercenter client: powercenter designer, workflow manager, and workflow monitor. These three tools are visible to the ETL developers also. So what is the repository manager? What is the use of the repository manager? Who is that person access that repository manager? Means administrator access the repository manager. What is the use of that repository manager? Means we can manage the either one or more repositories are created by the administrator. That means we can add either one or more repository folders in each repository service. Okay, at least one repository folder is needed in each repository service. There is no repository folders within that repository service, then that repository service we are unable to access in the powercenter designer. The folders must be needed. Those folders are created by the repository manager. Still in the current version, we can use repository manager tool to manage the various repository services created by the administrator. How to manage the repositories means, again, we can create one or more repository folders within that repository service. After that, we can add either individual users or group of users to work on that respective repository service. Hello? Okay, this is the whole environment.
Yes.
Okay, whole environment we have discussed here. Okay, see here. Okay, once we install whole setup in our local machine, then see this is the Informatica 9.1, 9.5.1. This is the server, this is the client. Once server setup was installed in our local machine, then here we can get these options. Informatica administrator home page, start Informatica service, stop Informatica service is there. Here using this Informatica administrator home page, we can create either one or more repository services as well as integration services. Okay, at least one repository service and one integration service is needed. Okay, without repository service, okay, we can't work on powercenter environment. Repository service must be needed. That service is created by the administrator in the Informatica administrator home page. Okay, for a development point of view, create a repository service. For execution point of view, create an integration service also. Once we clicked on start Informatica service, then here one command prompt window was displayed. Once Informatica service was started, then command prompt window was closed automatically. Okay, assume in the Informatica administrator home page, report service as well as integration service was created. Then what we need to do as an ETL developer, we can go to powercenter client. Okay, in the powercenter client, already told you, here 4 tools are available: powercenter designer, repository manager, workflow manager, and workflow monitor. These are the 4 tools are available. The main tool is the designer tool. This is the repository manager tool, which is used to manage the repository service created by the administrator. Okay, that means how to manage the repository service means we can add one or more repository folders within the respective repository service, and we can add the users or group of users for each folder with the necessary permissions like read, write, and execute permissions. Once users are allocated to the respective folders are created in the particular repository service, then we can go to powercenter designer. The powercenter designer tool is a development tool. 80% of the time we can spend in the powercenter designer tool only.
Actually, can we install this environment in Windows 7, or we need to install server in all machines?
Windows 7 or Windows XP, Windows 8, all are compatible.
Anything? Okay.
Both
Generally
server and
for
both client and server both
okay.
are installed in the same system.
Okay.
Completely not.
Generally for SAP we will install in separate server, right? So I just want.
Okay, SAP environment is different and informatica environment is different.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, got it. Thanks.
Okay, SAP nothing but system application products. That are the products. Whereas here projects. Here we can build the ETL project here, not product. Here we don't have any
Okay.
predefined product here. In
Okay.
the SAP environment, just what is the product is given, we need to customize that product as per business requirement enough. Okay, whereas here we can build the user defined projects.
Okay.
You see here, this is the user interfacing of powercenter designer. Okay, within this powercenter designer, see here, this is the left side window is called as repository navigator window. Okay, what are the repositories are created by the administrator? All are listed in the repository navigator window. Okay, and initially what we need to do as an ETL developer, which repository service is allocated to us. Okay, we need to connect into that respective repository service. Actually, who is the default user to work on various repository services? Administrator is the default user. So once informatica service was started, we need to spend 2 or 3 minutes time to connect to the repository service because some adjustments are needed in the software itself. Internally, some adjustments are needed. Once we started informatica service, it takes some time. Here, right click on the repository service name, now click on connect, then connect to repository window displayed. Here we can enter our username and password. Only authenticated users access repository service. Okay, here Windows authentication is not useful here. Here only system authentication in the sense only particular user access that respective repository service with their login details are like username and password. Even though it's failed to connect to the repository service, we don't need to worry about that. You have to try to connect to this same repository service again with username and password. So now it was connected and it lists what other repository folders are available. Here we have two folders. One is this is the personal folder, this is the shared folder. Here for example, 3 users are added to this dev underscore sales repository folder. For example, you are the one ETL developer. If you added to that dev underscore sales, which is a personal repository folder, then what are the logics are designed by you? That logics are not visible to the other users who are access the same repository folder. What are the logics you designed by you? That logics are not visible to the other users are added to the same repository folder. Why? Because it is a personal repository folder. Okay, what about this shared repository folder? What are the logics are designed by you? That logics are visible to the other users who are added to the same repository folder for other users also. Here we have personal repository folders and shared repository folders. Here we can select anyone. Then here what are the tools are there in the powercenter designer? 5 tools are available in the powercenter designer. First one is source analyzer, second one is target designer, third one is transformation developer, fourth one is mapper designer, and fifth one is map designer. This is the first one. When you can click on source analyzer tool, then see the workspace window. Right side window is called workspace window. Okay, now here source analyzer tool is opened in the workspace window. Using this source analyzer, we are connected to the respective source systems and import required sources. Here our source systems are either RDBMS or non-RDBMS. We can access any source system to the power center using source analyzer tool. From that source systems, we can import required sources. The sources means tables. What kind of the tables we can import from that respective sources? What kind of the tables in the sense either RDBMS tables or otherwise non-RDBMS also. Non-RDBMS tables means files like flat files, XML files, Excel files, COBOL files. Those are comes under non-RDBMS. Okay, RDBMS means Oracle, Teradata, DB2, Sybase, SQL Server. Those are RDBMS. Okay, we can access either RDBMS sources or non-RDBMS also by the source analyzer tool. So one after another we can access that respective sources. Okay, if your source is RDBMS, then we can create ODBC connectivity here. Through ODBC connectivity, we can connect into that respective source database. Otherwise, we can't connect to the source database directly here. The ODBC connectivity must be needed. Or if your source is file, then no ODBC connectivity is needed. Directly you can open that files to the power center. Directly you can open them using source analyzer. But just you can trace out the directory of the file path and select that file and import that file to here. Enough. Okay, based upon the type of the file, we can import that file to the power center using source analyzer. Okay, once required sources are imported from the various source systems, then we can go to target designer. This is the target designer. This target designer connected to our target system is called as data warehouse. From the data warehouse, we can import required targets. We can import required targets from the data warehouse by using target designer tool if available. Sometimes we can create our own target tables itself in the target designer and export the target table to the target database. So that means both import and export facility available for target designer. Whereas for source analyzer, only import facility available, no export facility. The next one is the transformation developer. Here is the transformation developer, which is used to build a transformation for reusability. So once we design one transformation, the transformation developer, we can reuse the transformations in multiple mappings if needed. The next one is the maplet designer. Okay, using this maplet designer, we can build a maplet with a set of transformations for reusability. Set of transformations for reusability, we can build a reusable object in the maplet designer tool that is called as maplet. Okay, once sources are imported and targets are imported or created, then we can go to mapping designer here. Okay, within this mapping designer, we can build a mapping with sources, targets as well as transformations in this manner. As per our business requirement, we can build a mapping here. In between source and the target, we can use various transformations to build a staging layer. Okay, that here, this is the whole procedure is called as ETL logic. In informatica terminology, it is called as mapping. Okay. Here within this mapping designer, we can build a mapping with sources, targets as well as transformations are called as reusable transformations, non-reusable transformations as well as reusable maplets also. Okay, from tomorrow class onwards, we can start the actual practicals. Okay, how to connect to the source systems, how to connect to the target system. One after another, we'll discuss them. Okay, in our whole syllabus, we included informatica administration also. Okay, we'll discuss after completion of the development. Okay, 1 or 2 sessions we need to spend to discuss about informatica administration homepage also.
Okay. Do you actually refer any books or material to
Okay, material is there.
just
No
go
books
through?
are needed. Material is sufficient.
Okay.
Okay, material is
Do
there.
you
I can
provide material?
material. I can provide material. Okay, I can give material to
Okay.
our consultant. He will transfer to you through Google Drive. He will send
Mm-hmm.
whole material to you.
Okay. Then, like, how to install this one? Is it open
Okay,
source or
I can
like?
give, yes. It's not a open source one. Some software
Mm-hmm.
links are there. I can share that software links to you through mail. You can download
Okay.
that entire software. Then I can actually that is the installed software is there within that software links. Through that software links, some parts are there. In each link, we have one part. Okay, you
Okay.
can download all the parts. Totally 7 parts are there. You can download all the parts one after another. After that, I can configure whole setup, informatica setup in your system.
Okay. Actually, for repository purpose, do we need to install database, like
Database
either
also, we can get
SQL?
database. Okay, without database, we can't work on
Yeah.
powercenter. Okay, database must be
Yeah.
needed.
Like, yeah. What database? Like a SQL Server, or Oracle,
Oracle
or what?
database. Oracle
Oracle.
database.
Okay.
Okay, here we
Okay.
don't need to worry about the type of the database.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, as an informatica
Okay.
developer, just we are access the source database and implement the logics and finally load the
Mm-hmm.
data to the target system. The target system may be either Oracle, SQL Server, Teradata, anything. You just
Okay.
read the data and load the data. Enough. Because
Okay.
sometimes for performance enhancements point of view, we can write some queries at that source level. If your source is RDBMS, then we can write some queries to increase the performance during extraction. Or if your source is, if
Okay.
your target is database, before loading and
Mm-hmm.
after loading, what we need to do to increase the performance. If you want to increase the performance during loading also, we can write some queries. If your source is
Okay.
RDBMS and target is RDBMS, then only can write the queries. Otherwise, we can't write the queries.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Source and target system both should be the same. Like, I mean,
Anyone, anything.
source, anything. Okay.
Sometimes same or sometimes anything. In the real-time point of view, here
Mm-hmm.
sometimes our source systems are files and target is database.
Okay.
Okay, in our
Mm-hmm.
system, Oracle database is there in our setup.
Okay.
Okay, we can
Mm-hmm.
choose Oracle as a source, Oracle as a target, and Oracle as a repository also.
Okay.
We created a repository in the Oracle database only for our practice. So here some
Okay.
examples are there. Some example schemas are available in the Oracle database by default. SCART
Mm-hmm.
schema, HR schema, and asset schema. These are the 3 schemas are available. Okay, we can choose them as sources. And we can create our own target as per our business requirement. Okay,
Okay.
within the target, we can store the data.
Mm-hmm.
I can show you how to create a target also. A target in the sense, in the Oracle database, can create one user and use that user as a target. Okay.
Okay.